Welcome back to my podcast. This is Mark Elam, and I'm sharing from the first chapter of my life when God rescued me from myself and from all my anger and addictions and challenges and rebellion and redeemed me, making me brand new and proven to me that it wasn't too late. Join with me what happened next in this new journey with Christ. Now we're attending church. I don't want to tell anybody I'm an outlaw. It's bad enough I'm a new believer and new at the church and new to getting to know everybody and figuring out what the culture is there, how strict are they, whatever. We went to several churches, trying different churches. I actually did this before Lori came to stay with me, before she believed it was real. I was visiting churches. There were some exciting churches in Tulsa, mega churches, powerhouse churches with big name preachers and visiting guest speakers. And I would go over and visit some of them and wow, the worship bands and the speakers. And I thought, God, I want to go to one of these great churches. I don't know how I can afford to drive over here every Sunday, but man, I want to go to one of these great churches. Mom suggested I visit some of the local churches. She listed a couple of them and I went to a couple. I was driving up to this small church here in Claremore. And when I'm passing the little sign going to the church, all of a sudden, with strong energy, this thought comes. If you will go to this church, they will love your wife. She won't, accept them here. And I was been praying for her. I knew that she didn't believe it was real, and she'd never been a Christian and didn't, hardly ever go to church. And I thought, if that's true, if what I just heard is that this church will love her and this is where we'll make it, then this is where I need to go. And so I just started attending there, and I gave up that idea about going to one of the big rocking and rolling mega churches. I was going to stay with this church of love. And of course, later on, she did come and she did attend that church with me. And the first time she went, she got big hugs from Patty Buckner and some of the other ladies. And I remember her telling me she went and hid in the bathroom. She didn't know what to think about this. There was so much love and so much acceptance. Well, of course, we loved that church and continued going and getting to know all the people. And I had an open door to the pastor's office because it wasn't a mega church. It was a small church. And so he was available to everyone. They even visited our home. Well, some weeks have gone by. I think it's been a month or two, and I still haven't told anybody. I'm wanted by the law, and I don't know what to do about it. And yet, it's my reality, and I'm going to have to face up, but I'm afraid. Well, we got into the place to where I was working, mowing lawns, and I started a business in window washing, and we were getting our first place to live, moving out from Mom's house. And we got into this little house, and our furniture, my broke down truck, the things that were in Oklahoma City, I needed to go get them. And when I went to get them, there was an informant that turned me in, and I needed to be turned in. And law enforcement was there waiting for me, all these squad cars. And of course, there I went to jail. I asked them, can I take my Bible? They didn't care. They were just happy they caught me after this time. And for the first time ever, I'm in jail as a Christian. I've been in jail. I used to keep track. At some point, I stopped keeping track. For years, I've said it was 50 or 60 times. I don't know. Maybe it's only 30 or 40 times, but whatever. I was in jail a lot of times for a lot of different things. And now I'm back in. They've caught me facing these felonies, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I remember being in jail, though, but this time I was a Christian. This time I wasn't going crazy like a trapped animal on the inside. This time I had a peace. But, I knew that they didn't want to let me out, and there would be no bail, and that I'd have to serve that time. And I knew this day was coming. And the thoughts came, well, Lord, I guess I'll be a Christian in prison. Maybe I'll have a prison ministry, if that's what you want for me, okay. But I had friends and family that were praying for me. that were kind of caught off guard by what happened. They didn't know all this was going on. And of course, my mom praying for me. And she wasn't going to give up that easy. Neither were my friends and church members. And I remember in that jail that week, looking through my Bible, I came to rest on Psalms 34, where it talked about the Lord will rescue you. Oh man, these verses were just coming alive off the page, that he would rescue me. And I thought, really? Will he rescue me from this, from prison, what I deserve? Wow, is that possible? And then I started having these thoughts. You know, nobody cares about you. Nobody's praying for you. Maybe your mom, but that's it. You know, your wife doesn't even believe you're a real Christian. And that little church you go to, they won't pray for you. They don't even hardly know you. There's not very many people there, and they probably don't even know how to pray for you. You know, all these thoughts, these negative thoughts were coming. These lies were coming to get me to give up. And I started thinking, well, I guess he won't rescue me. I guess I'll be in prison here. But I'd read those verses, he will rescue you. And I'd get up, and then the thoughts would come back. Well, all week that battle went on. Friday was a visitor's day. And on Visitor's Day, there is only a window of time in the afternoon when you could receive visitors. And I heard names being called all afternoon, people going to see their visitor, their lawyer, their loved ones, their friends, their wives, whatever. And I knew, man, I'm clear across the state. I'm hours from where everybody is. It's a work day. It's Friday. There's no one coming to see me. I don't have a lawyer coming to see me. You know, the lawyers that were in that town I had used before never paid them. They didn't like me. And it turns out the judge was the brother of the last lawyer that helped me get out of jail. And I never finished paying him for that stolen car thing. So, you know, he was really mad at me. The judge was mad at me. I was like, you know, there's not much hope here. And I was reading these Psalms, the Lord will rescue you. And I'd get my hopes up, and then these thoughts would come. Nobody cares. It's at the end of visiting time. It's like 10 or 15 minutes till 5 o'clock, the last of the visiting time. And I hear my name called, Elam, you've got a visitor. And I'm thinking, wow, I got a visitor. Who would be visiting me? It could only be Lori. You know, she's in this part of the state. She's there living with her mom. Maybe she's come over to see me. You know, all the times in jail, she would come and see me. She would get the money to bail me out. It was like me and her against the world through those years. And so I'm thinking, well, Lori's found out I'm here and she's come to see me. Well, that'll be good. And I'm walking down the hall, and I go up this door, and I open the door, and there's this little room. On my side, there's a chair and a little desk, little counter, and a bulletproof glass thing, and a telephone that you talk through. And on the other side, there's 2 chairs for this room for 2 people to be there to visit. I'm thinking, you know, as I'm opening that door, she'll be sitting in one of those chairs with the phone. We've been in this situation many times before. And I open the door, and it's not just Lori, but that little room was packed with people. My pastor was there, an elder, 2 elders of the church was there, some of the women of the church was there. I mean, like 10 people were squeezed into this room for 2 and out the overflow door there, and all waving and happy and pick up the phone and to talk to me. Something in me right then just broke with joy. Because the devil had been lying to me that nobody cared. Nobody was praying. That little church, they didn't even care about you. Well, that little church, almost the whole church, you know, took off of work, drove across the state all day long and sit and wait for their time to see me, to encourage me, to let me know that they were praying for me and I did matter. And the devil's a liar. And that was a huge change in my life right then, that I realized those thoughts that come, that try to depress us, to keep us down, to tell us we're not going to make it, those are lies from the enemy. And they never work unless we give in to them and give up to them. And I was giving up to them until I opened that door and all those people had made an effort to come and visit me. Their effort to come and visit me gave me hope that I needed. My mom stayed in the area over the next week, meeting with lawyers, meeting with the judge, doing whatever she could, praying, putting up money, doing whatever she could. And you know what? At the end of the day, God redeemed that whole situation. I never went to prison. I didn't serve all those years that I was supposed to serve. They gave me again for the fourth time probation, and I could serve it back in Claremore where I was living and going to that church. And it was a major milestone and event in my life. Not only I wasn't going to live the next 20 or 30 years in prison as a Christian, but I was free, but I was also redeemed and free and had this life in me that's like, God, you're amazing. You're doing for me things I don't deserve. And you know, they've said, and it's so true, those who are loved much, love much. When you've been forgiven a lot, man, you love a lot in return. God means something. You know, I don't encourage anybody to have a life of rebellion and wildness and trouble with the law so that when you get rescued by God, you got a real on-fire Christian life. But for me, I was so excited about how good God was. There was no turning me off. I was just hooked on God every day, listening to as many tapes as I could, reading as much of the Word of God as I could, going to as many church services as I could. Every revival was happening in Tulsa, I was over there going to. Every prayer meeting, I was there. Anything that was going on, I wanted to be right in the middle of it. I wanted to know more about this God and, man, who He is. And of course, the teaching that I was getting was filled with love and grace and mercy, things I'd never heard before in that strict religious church teaching. They were teaching me how good God is. And it became this whole new life of God and me changing my family. Thanks for listening.